Hello and welcome to Cricket360, the pre-match analysis on what is likely to be the final day of this test match and as this particular series as well. Once again, I have Joydipta with me. We're going to be talking about a few things today, especially pertaining to what can we expect in today's game. Last evening, we spoke a lot about what went well for India in terms of Rishabh Pant's spectacular innings in terms of his approach. We also spoke about the decision that didn't go in India's favor. I'm referring to Dean Elgar's and the reactions that came in from the Indian team, and did we kind of end up giving 30-40 runs extra in that last stretch. And of course, we spoke about Elgar and the South African grit, and obviously the impressive Peterson. Joydipta, what's your take in terms of what can we expect today? What are you looking forward to in the next 30-40 minutes?
Well, what I'm going to see is a different South Africa because with Dean Elgar and Peterson both at the crease, there was some counter-attack. And as you rightly said, after that DRS, India did lose the plot for a bit. Everybody was only worried about that dismissal. Instead, they leaked some runs. Ashwin got cut on a wicket like this. He doesn't get cut too often. He might be hit off the back foot, but not cut. He was square cut not once, but 2 or 3 times. He was reverse swept. So obviously, that dismissal or that dismissal that was turned down was clearly in the heads. It went to everybody. It went to the skipper, it went to the bowler, it went to KL Rahul, it went to Rishabh Pant. And something like this is very infectious because one person starts talking about it, the others do. You needed somebody to come and say, guys, done and dusted, let's get on with it. Let's get our job done. Because we have a test match to win here. Control the controllables. I know it's easier said than done. Sometimes you lose it in the middle in such a high profile series. Everything is on the balance and you feel this is the guy you want. But the good thing is that they got him. They got him at the end. And whether it was hitting the stumps or not hitting the stumps, we can talk about it till the cows come home. Because honestly, you never know how a ball will bounce on a certain pitch. There are 2 balls pitching in the same place, bouncing differently. One on the seam, one on the stomach. So you never know how it's going to bounce. It's just perceived. And you're going with perception. So, you win some, you lose some. Okay, that's one. That being done and dusted, I feel that South Africa will be on the back foot because they know their batting is thin. The bowling is of high quality. They had 2 really seasoned pros in the sense that one seasoned pro in Elgar and the other guy who's probably the best batsman in the team. That's a big statement to make. But even with everybody in the team, I think he looks the best. He looks a player really for the future. But now the guy is coming in with every wicket falling, it just gets more difficult. And as runs were flowing, there will be periods where the runs will be very difficult to get by. So India's target will be not to give any runs away. Because on this wicket, if you don't give runs away, the wickets will come. There will be a ball which will have your name on it. The only reason Rishabh Pant came and played like the way he did is because he knew counter-attack. Even these 2 were counter-attacking yesterday. But when you have 100 runs left, 100 plus runs left, and you've got 8 wickets in hand. Now the full pressure is on South Africa. Everybody's expecting South Africa to win. So they will be a little bit circumspect, thinking that, okay, let's take the conventional way. I'd be surprised if they take any other route.
Very well said. And, let's kind of deep dive onto that particular incident because, again, you're right. There were 2 things at play. One is, I think, every cricketer at every level is taught that, well, whether you like it or not, we have to respect the umpire's decision. I think probably every cricketing guru on Twitter, on TV, probably feels that the decision was a bit unfair. But I suppose at the end of the day, I guess as ambassadors of the game, you've got to respect an umpire's decision, whether it's on field or off field. Also, like you rightly said, you never know. Like Sean Pollock said, of course, it's a South African view, but he said, he gave his reason as to why he thought the ball may not have hit the stump. So clearly there's a counter view. And let's quickly hear what Boria had to say. He shot a nice video talking about, not just the whole episode, but also the reaction. And then let's, have a quick chat about this particular episode and, how should India have perhaps dealt with this.
I haven't been able to do much lives because I've been unwell, but the Dean Elgar DRS clearly prompts an analysis. And I decided to go to Lakshman Sivaramakrishnan. He has been in the commentary business for the last 21 years and has seen it all, has seen how DRS has evolved. In my book, Dean Elgar was plumb LBW. There's no 2 ways about it. Yes, we have all heard and seen what the Indian players have said on the stump mic. We know they feel let down, and there is every reason for them to be feeling so. There is an element of error, and there's no question that technology is not error free. It's also important that this is the only sport that allows men to predict. So people predicting is what impacted that particular dismissal. And Shiva explains in this piece how error crept in, or possibly had crept in, and Dean Elgar got a reprieve when, according to Shiva, he too was plumb LBW. Listen in to Lakshman Sivaramakrishnan.
Hi, this is Lakshman Sivaramakrishnan. I've been in the commentary line for the last 21 years, and I've been seeing the DRS ever since it was introduced into the system. For me, I've always felt the exact point of impact can only be registered from the square angles, which is either point or square leg. But the general perception and what the spectators see and what the Hawkeye does is freeze the ball from the front angle and only then track the ball. That makes for good visual because you're looking at from a straight angle. But the problem there lies is because if it's frozen or paused a fraction earlier, then the point of deviation and the point of bounce is a lot of difference. Because of the fact that it's frozen or paused a little earlier, the turn might be a lot more in terms of the projected turn by the Hawkeye, and also the bounce will be a lot more because instead of showing good length, it will be showing just short of good length. So the point of impact while coming from the straight angle has to be perfect, and it can't be perfect all the time because it's manually done. So I would think that looking at the replays of Ashwin's bowling, I think Dean Elgar was plumb in front, and the point of impact might have been wrongly judged by the Hawkeye with a straight-on angle, and hence the bounce might have seemed a lot more. But in my opinion, the perfect point of impact is only obtained from the square angle and not from the straight angle. So I think there is a huge element of doubt in what we saw yesterday with the leg before appeal. The umpire's decision always stands good, and I think in this case, Murray Erasmus gave the right decision, and probably the technology went wrong, and South Africa got a huge benefit of doubt. And that is my personal opinion, and I stand by it.
So there you have it from Shiva as to what he believes went wrong with the Elgar dismissal. Marais Erasmus, clearly, multiple times you've heard the commentators say he's the best, he's the most conservative. And how many times has his decisions been overruled in this particular series? Hardly any. If you remember, hardly any. So even Marais Erasmus had a smile. He generally is stoic. He had a smile on his face when he said, I mean, he was literally seen shaking his head, couldn't believe it. And you've heard him also on the stump mic. That is also now in the public domain. That was a wrong call. 60 for 2 South Africa could have meant they were 4 down by the end of the day's play. And the Indians had every reason to be hard done, and feel violated. Yes, the match referee might call the Indians, but there is a line between what is legal and what is moral. And in this case, the moral has been violated. And that is very important that all of us need to take into account. Is this the first time? No. Shiva recounts an instance from the past as well, and you will find it very, very scary. Listen in.
Well, with regard to DRS, in my early days as a commentator, I had a fellow commentator sitting next to me, and I remember it was the dismissal of Saurav Ganguly. He was given out leg before, and I felt while sitting next to my partner that the ball might have pitched outside the line of leg stump. So my fellow commentator went down to the director in terms of a machine called a lazy machine, which enables the commentators to speak to the director. And those tram lines or the red zones that we used to have to see if the ball's pitching within the stumps or outside the line of the stumps, off stump or leg stump. In Saurav's case, it was pitching outside leg stump. So he requested the director, because the cameras which hold the mat or the red zone is called the LBW cameras, and it's a fixed camera. It can't be moved around. So, but with the fixed camera, it's remotely operated from the control room. So what happened in that case was my co-commentator requested the director to see if he can extend the red zone and show the ball pitching on the leg stump, which would have then meant the red zone would have been beyond 9 inches, which means the red zone would have gone outside of the leg stump to the outside of the off stump, therein giving a wrong indication and wrong evidence, not only to the umpire but to the entire public, that the ball might have pitched on the leg stump and hit middle. And this was my early days, and I was quite shocked. I didn't know what to do, but these kind of things have happened in front of me. So this is just one example I'm giving you. And India, everybody thinks that we were not very keen on doing the DRS or taking DRS into play. But in 2008, I think India was the first country that accepted the DRS. And in the series against Sri Lanka, we had an Australian director where all the DRS that India went for went against them. Almost all of it went against India. But every time the Sri Lankans went for it, they almost got it right. So a high percentage of successful reviews were done by Sri Lanka, and a high percentage of unsuccessful reviews went to India, which then means that while taking a lot of time, that's where there is a big element of doubt. While taking a lot of time in the ball tracking, there is always a chance that something can be done with that. So India were the first ones to take up the DRS, and since because the experience was so bad, they refused to take the DRS later on, take the technology into the game later on. And only after Alev Kumble became the chairman of the ICC Cricket Committee did India accept to the technology and take up the DRS. But nobody can blame India, because they were the first one to try out the DRS. They were on the receiving end, and what's happening right now is also a huge problem in terms of the DRS is not 100% accurate and it can be manipulated.
So there you have it. The Dean Elgar controversy will now rage on. It's a matter of debate. Should the ICC step in? Should the BCCI step in? Should cricket boards around the world try and find mechanisms? Because this dismissal could have impacted the outcome of a series and the World Test Championship. Is that fair? We leave it open-ended and the jury is out on this particular one. That's our Palak Day breaking news.
That was an interesting one. We've got some very interesting comments from a experienced cricketer who's obviously a commentator as well. For me, there are three angles to it. One is, does the technology have flaws? I think fair to say most technologies have some degree of flaws, and Hawkeye is one of them. I mean, across sports, that technology has flaws. The second is, again, should there be certain review mechanisms? Should there be certain mechanisms for redressals, for kind of lodging complaints? The third is about, I think, which is the part I want to get your views to begin with. Purely as an administrator, as a coach, that is also about the ambassadorship of the game, where I think I'm probably in the camp where, probably what Gautam Gambhir said after the match, that I think, sure, it could have gone against you, but there's a bigger job at hand about the match. And I guess every coach tells you that you can only control that much. You can be angry. But I think where I'm a bit worried about, and this match showed us that when the leader of a team, and I obviously love and admire, and, Kohli has been fantastic for Indian Test cricket, but I think these instances make me sometimes question. What we saw is when the leader started speaking, even Ashwin, even KL Rahul, other people started speaking. And, from a coaching perspective, how much of this rubs on to the next generation? How much of this, behavior starts percolating, in the club cricket scene? What do you think about this, Jaydeepta?
See, the first thing is that you're so right that when a captain does it, and captain is the best player, he is the numero uno batsman in the world, the iconic player. So the younger lot feel maybe this is the way to go. And Virat is that sort of a person. He's also the player he is because of this. So it's not that this doesn't help him. the competitiveness, the fiery spirit that he has also made him the player that he is. He's very, very special. No two opinions about that. But all I'm saying is that when something like this happens and it's technology, can you fight technology in the middle of the ground? Whether you make redressals later, you whatever you want, you can do later, but that's going to happen later on after the test match is over. So are you going to just throw
That's
in the
right.
towel and say, this is it? I can understand 10 runs left to win, 2 wickets, and I can understand. But you can still win this test match with all that's going on. I also thought it was plumb. And I was more aghast than Virat Kohli was when it was turned down. But there were a couple of balls in the next over which were flighted outside off stump, and they did bounce over the stump to Dean Elgar,
Yeah.
which Rishabh Pant took over the stumps. So whether the flight of those balls and the ball that hit the pad was the same or not, we don't have the technology to figure that out.
Yeah. And as you
We
said,
don't.
I mean, this could have happened with a human decision as well. The umpire could have given it. A human umpire could have got it wrong as well. So I think that's a fair point. That at
And
the end
also,
of the day,
Pranti, there's a possibility that the ball that hit the pad fell on the stomach, the balls that hit were outside of stump, both fell on the seam. So you will never know. There are too many variables that are there. What you can do is you got 130, 40 runs left, and you got 9 wickets to take.
that's
If
right.
you can concentrate on that, then you can go back and do what you want once the test match is over. But you can't let runs leak just because of that. And for a while, everybody was worried about that dismissal. That's all they were discussing. There were square cuts for 4, reverse sweeps for 4, half volleys, missed fields. Everybody was only worried about that. So for a while, and that can happen. It's happened to me. It's happened to teams that I've played in. But that's when a senior guy comes in, hey guys, come over for a minute after the over. Okay, what's over is over. We'll sort this out later. Let's get back to our plans. And that for a while, India lost yesterday.
Yes, and I genuinely hope that we focus on the variables we can control, because again, today the spirits will be high, today the energy will be high, lots at stake once again. And again, you never know, things can again go wrong today as well. So I'm hoping that today we just focus on the cricket, let our ball and our fielding do the talking, because you're right, once the series is done, we can write about it, talk about it, take it to ICC, do whatever we like. But hopefully today we just focus on cricket, good cricket, and focus on the variables in our control. Let's get
Yeah,
talking about cricket.
the good thing is that Dean Elgar is gone, so that won't linger. When you see him, you always feel that he's there
Yeah.
because of that. So that's one good thing that he's gone. Otherwise, everybody is on his ear. Oh, it's the second time you love this country loves you. The TV people love you. So things like that will go on. But with that, what happens is that even your focus is shifting. If you're saying something, you're obviously thinking about it. You just can't say something without thinking about it. Right now, with not seeing Dean Elgar in the middle, they will focus on the next 2 players, and that's kind of in the at the back for the time being. After the test match, you can do what you want.
Fair enough. And exactly, hopefully everyone's got a good amount of rest. They probably thought about it. I'm sure they would have read whatever is being said in the media about it. Hopefully they've got good rest, and both sides come out to fight for what will be a very, very well-deserved win. Let's quickly talk about the South African batting. I mean, their middle order, barring Peterson and Bavuma, to me still seems weak. You've talked about this
Yeah.
earlier as well. Would you see, of course, in the previous match where Elgar was fighting, Rassi played a very interesting innings. Do you reckon someone like a Rassi should play that counter-attacking game whilst a Peterson or a Bavuma? Because again, even Bavuma tends to attack. Would you see different players taking it in a different manner?
See, the only person who's counter-attacked and made this game stand on his head has been Rishabh Pant. So, but you need the ability to be able to do it. One is just having a plan, but you should be having the ability and the firepower and the weapons to be able to carry out the plan. Okay. Now, if you tell a Pujara to bat like Sehwag and a Sehwag to bat like Pujara, that's not going to happen. So, because that's not their strength. So, whether he can or not is the first thing, and the second thing is also depend which time of the day. The first hour and a half, I don't think that will be the plan. If they lose a couple of wickets, if they're really in a hole, there might come up a point, a small phase in the game where they just might want to hit the 2 main bowlers out of their comfort zone, out of their good length areas. But Sami, Bumrah, Umesh has played over 50 test matches. I mean, Shami's got 200 wickets. Bumrah is the number 1 bowler in the world. So they're not going to get phased by that. And that's the reason why in the evening yesterday when you and I were chatting, I still felt if Elgar was in, I would say it's even Steven game. But with Elgar gone, the pressure will be on Peterson because he will not be able to play as freely as he was, knowing that the rock solid Elgar is at the other end. Also, they were running superbly between wickets. That's not going to happen because there'll be a lot of balls which will be bowler keeper, bowler keeper, bowler keeper. So you can't run when it's bowler keeper. Elgar was still getting those small dots, getting the singles, rotating the strike, which really frustrates the bowler to see that I can't bowl, 3 consecutive balls to the same bat. I have a plan in mind, but every second ball he's taking a single and going to the other end. And so Peterson's approach will also change today because he knows that right now it's Bavuma maybe and or Van de Dusen and then Bavuma and then the rest of them, they are not as rock solid and they don't have somebody of a clever Rishabh Pant who can turn the game on its head.
And from an Indian bowling standpoint, would you still reckon that with Bumrah, Shami, and Umesh attacking, would you want Ashwin to play that defensive role, or today everyone's got to be striking?
No, I feel Ashwin can still play the defensive role. I would want Ashwin to bowl ahead of Shardul because he's better at keeping runs down. Shardul, because he's new to cricket, because he still hasn't got that consistency with the ball. He's still very much in progress. He bowls beautiful balls, but in between he also bowls a few balls that can leak runs. And if you're trying to get the team out, there will be slips, gully, short leg maybe initially for the new batters. So there will be pockets where runs are there. So you want somebody who's really, really on the money. And you rotate these three, and if you want to give them a rest, you get Ashwin in with a defensive field. And if it starts really turning, and then you can change the plans, you can get him out. But Ashwin in this game did not have a short leg, did not have a silly point, had a lone slip. So his role seemed to be to keep the runs down. And the only time he leaked runs was after that LBW was not given and Peterson got after him. But besides that, he's looked really good. So give that role to him, and Shardul can play the fifth bowler at this point in time. But you really want these three fast bowlers to do the main job and rotate them. It's not a lot of runs. It's not 2 days of cricket left. It's only 100 few runs left. So you can have your three bowlers and Ashwin do the job for you and let the better team win.
Yeah, absolutely. From my perspective, I really hope Ashwin's given a better field, a more attacking field to kind of do his job. He's world class. He's right up there. And well, 111 runs to go, probably the last day of the test match and series. Hopefully for the Indian fans, just the way South Africa got Rahane, Pujara right up front, hopefully India can do likewise. If you're a South African fan, you would want to see Peterson continue from where he left. But it's going to be another riveting day of test cricket. We've already seen the Ashes. It's off to a great start, the test match at Hobart. Hopefully right now we get to watch a fantastic last day of the Cape Town test match. We'll come back to you with more when the game finishes today. Thank you so much. Enjoy the game. Thank you, Joydipta.
Thank you.